Do you want your girl to tell you when she's on her period?
I've recently starting dating a new guy. We work together so we see each other almost daily, and text a lot when we don't. I have really awful periods that basically keep me in bed on the first day because of the pain. I've been to the doctor about it, apparently nothing's wrong. I got my period today and he was texting me asking how my day went. It was horrible, because I was doubled over with cramps all day. I didn't want to just dump all that on him though, so I said it was okay. If your girlfriend is in pain because of her period, would you want her to tell you, or to just keep it to herself? I know there's not really anything he could do to help, but IDK. Edit. Wow, I didn't expect this to blow up. Thanks for the awards and advice, everyone. Smiley face. My doctor didn't dismiss me. He sent me for blood work and an ultrasound when I first brought it up, and everything came back normal. He also did a test where he felt my abdomen to see if anything felt off, and nothing did. I don't have any of the symptoms of endo other than bad pain on my period. I've been on the pill since I went to the doctor's, and it's really helped. Now I'm only in pain on the first day instead of the whole week. Thanks for your concern and advice. As a guy who picks up on mood changes, and tend to overthink things, I would like to know. I seem like a chill guy to most people. But not knowing if I did or said something stupid or it's because someone is having a bad day, can stress me out. If I know the reason, I'll do what I can to support the person. Wife and I have been together for a little over 6 years, married 3. I still get the stress anxiety and it takes me forever to figure it out. We tried the Clue app for a while, so I could get a notification and keep track, but we fell out of that habit. I'm slowly getting better at recognizing why she's just silently working in the kitchen, not talking, not interacting. She's jumping on the grenade to save the platoon. Edit. Thanks y'all, glad we could have a laugh. My wife said, yeah, I've been a self-isolation pro since I was 12. Also, don't come in here and ask me what's wrong, you live in the same house and see the same things I do. So there's your pro tip for the night. Well, for the month, I guess. I'm like this bro. I present as being pretty stoic, but I've always been abnormally sensitive to people's moods, energies, or whatever hippie shit you want to call it. I can instantly tell if somebody is a little off or has something on their mind, and if it's someone I care about, I overanalyze as to the reason. My wife realized this early on in our relationship, and she always gives me a heads up when her period is on its way. At one point I had a little reminder set in my phone's calendar, but I also know there's apps for tracking your cycle that have a boyfriend mode for your partner. Most of the time she's fine, but it really helps me to know that if she's a little more intense than normal, there's other factors in play and I don't have to play the "is she a total bitch or am I a total asshole" game. Honestly, I really feel for women who get bad periods. I lived platonically with a girl in college who was a little nutty but very sweet and level-headed, until the time of the month, at which point she went batshit fucking loco and could have a 4-hour sobbing fit because somebody moved one of her vinyl records, just to use a real example. She knew it was irrational but couldn't help it, and it was heartbreaking watching her turn from my otherwise mostly normal friend turn into the thing, for a couple days every month. Granted, I've never been squeamish about these things, had a couple extremely close female friends in HS, but frankly the only reason I can think that a guy wouldn't want to know is if they're the immature, bodily functions, sort, and personally if I were a woman, I wouldn't think those guys are worth my time. I kinda track my cycle, and when my dude and I were still hanging out more, I would give him updates. It was just a matter of necessity. I get insane mood swings. I'm super horny near ovulation, so keeping things chill and chaste was his job at that point. I tend to panic and be super insecure just before my period, and also crave exactly the foods that irritate my bowels, so knowing that was going on was helpful. I'm also super irregular, and he was the one who eventually talked me into seeing a doctor, and came with me. I'd had some very bad experiences in the past. Plus, if we had gone the marriage direction, it would have been even more important. We're both Catholic, so we would have been using my cycle tracking to determine what days to have sex for conception avoidance. For the record, I did not break up with him. He's awesome and damn near perfect, and I'm not that much of an idiot. Unfortunately, he's probably going to become a priest, so we had to change direction. Now we're just close friends with some romantic tension, lol. Of course, for so many reasons. If she has bad periods, heavy cramps, high irritability, etc., then I want to know so that I can be helpful and supportive. If either of us is self-conscious or otherwise disinterested in sex while she's on her period, being casually direct about it at the first sign can save some awkwardness in the bedroom. I'm not ever opposed to period sex, personally, but it does curtail certain activities and add a few extra preparations, so knowing in advance just makes things easier and more comfortable for everyone. With my current GF, I've gotten to know her signs, so she doesn't even have to tell me all the time. Boobs get sore a few days ahead. About 2 days ahead she wants chocolate, the only day watch each month that's true. The day before she wants a big meat meal, usually ribs. ETA, yes, he can help. He can't make your cramps go away magically, but I've never had a GF that didn't want cuddles and a warm hand on her stomach when offered, or that didn't at least appreciate a little bit of kind consideration in her time of suffering. I'm surprised I had to scroll so far down to find someone who mentioned the preparations. Few guys will be opposed to period sex, but no guy wants a big bloody surprise. Is also not a bad idea to mention it off you think you're done bleeding. We don't bleed unless something's gone wrong, so looking down and seeing unexpected blood can cause a little panic. I'm speaking from experience on this one. There was a brief moment in my teens where I was really regretting not cutting my fingernails. Also, if you're banging a guy, he wants to know that you are or aren't pregnant. Even if you're using both, control a confirmation that it worked is always appreciated. At some point, the guy might be really excited for you to not have a period. But really the big thing is more or less what most people have already said. You're going to have a couple hundred periods. If a guy is going to be a big part of your life, you need to know how he's going to handle it every month. I'm so sorry, dear. Your doctor isn't taking your pain seriously. If you have enough pain to affect your life by keeping you in bed for the better part of a day, there is something wrong. Usually it's something simple that doesn't impact your fertility, which is probably what he means by there isn't anything wrong, but you should know that being stuck in bed to a day because the pain is that bad is something wrong. You deserve medical care for that. This is all said as a fellow woman who suffered horrible periods for years believing that's just how it was. With diagnosis and treatment for endometriosis, I don't have to live through a debilitating day once every single month anymore. It's life-changing and we all deserve to live without pain. I want my partner to let me know about anything that's troubling her, physically or otherwise. There's no reason for guys to be squeamish or awkward about periods. It's just a thing that happens to women that sucks for them. It's not exactly a secret or abnormal, nor is it disgusting or shameful or whatever words might come up. Of course, it's also not necessary to discuss it in detail any more than you feel the need to either, but I don't see why it should bother him, or anyone, really, just to know that you're on your period. I'm sure he won't mind. In fact, if he shows concern about your discomfort, then it will say a lot about his character and is a good sign. He's going to find out eventually. You may as well tell him now. It's completely normal for many women to have cramps during their periods, and it's a good opportunity for a man to take a load off her shoulders and help her relax a bit. To show how much he cares. The general consensus is to tell him, and I'd agree. If I had a girlfriend, I'd want her to tell me, both so I can potentially shower them with love, and be more mindful of what I say. While I know you mean well, the stigma that women are extra irritable on their periods can be quite harmful. While we do have more hormonal ups and downs and they are often connected to the cycle, it's not necessarily at the same time as the period starts. For myself and most women I know, it's rather around a week or so before their period starts, and it doesn't always show by being irritable. I personally don't get the emotions usually portrayed as PMS at all. I rather get emotional, sad, but not usually by anything my partner does or says, rather by IDK, watching a touching animal video or something similar. I can of course only speak for myself, but I would very much want my partner to treat me the same as he always does. I don't like the thought of him behaving different than usual because I'm on my period, has a weird connotation to it. Emo. You do sound like you have very good intentions, that's why I just wanted to add another perspective just to keep in mind. My ex had the same thing, and she communicated pretty early on in our relationship how bad it would get. It helped a lot on my end because as the relationship progressed, I would take on more and more responsibility on those days. By the end, we were living together and I would basically spend my day just doing anything to make her feel at ease. Let her just lay in bed and feel bad while I did running around, cooking, cleaning, but her a guilty pleasure, anything. The communication set us up for a very clear understanding of expectations. Which for me, I would expect nothing of her for a day or two. It would be the exact same for days my shoulder was really sore from work. She would just take care of me. This is where having a healthy relationship shines. Hey op. I'm not sure if you will see this, but your periods should not be that painful to the point you can't get out of bed. I highly advise you to get checked for endometriosis. It's a condition a lot of women have that goes undiagnosed. The most common symptom is painful periods. If you get checked out and you don't have it, then I suggest you take ibuprofen 400 mg every 4 to 6 hours, do not exceed 1,200 mg per day. Don't take this drug on an empty stomach. This will help with your periods a lot. For the future, take it as soon as you start to see some spotting. Source: Intern Pharmacist. Hijacking this thread because my periods are so severe that I have to take way more of the recommended 1,200 mg of ibuprofen in order to get any type of relief. I probably take 1,200 mg every 4 hours, and alternate that with 2 extra strength Midol plus cannabis as needed. Plus a heating pad and a personal TENS machine. And that is just to keep me okay enough to lay in bed and out of the emergency room. What are the risks with taking that much ibuprofen? If you feel afraid of speaking about your body, the body that he happily sticks himself in 3 weeks out of the month, then he shouldn't be allowed inside that body. Part of being in a partnership is being partners. That means if you feel like shit, you should be comfortable enough to speak TF up. You're both adults. If he gets shitty about how it's gross, or whatever, he's not fucking worth it. He's not an adult. He's a child. And adults don't fuck children. Not a doctor here, but I do have mild endometriosis. I think you need a different doctor. What you're describing is not normal. Last I knew, endometriosis can only be confirmed surgically, but my last OB/GYN suspected it from looking at my annual ultrasounds. It could be something different, of course, but boy does that sound like endo. Yes, and if you get married and have a daughter, make sure he knows when she is on her period too. Here's why. The other day I was tired, drained and distracted from work when I got home. We have white cloth chairs, and when my 15-year-old daughter got up from the dinner table, I immediately saw a large red stain on her chair. She had red Powerade with dinner, and in my ignorant, exhausted state I thought she spilled the drink. So I said, "Jesus, you made a mess. How did you manage to get that all over the chair?" It wasn't until after the words left my mouth that I realized whatever was on the chair was a few shades too dark to be Powerade. Spare us the guilt of causing scenes like this. Just tell us so we can be discreet when accidents happen. As a guy with 6 sisters and raised by religious parents, I'm so happy I'm best friends with a woman who has let me know about her period. Just the fact that I was never educated about the very basics of female anatomy is horrible. I didn't know why my sisters were randomly sick growing up. Was I going to get sick? I was never told. Just knowing how half the population of the world works, even rudimentary explanations, has made me more capable of properly caring. It boggles my mind how guys can think something is unnatural or gross when it is happening everywhere all the time. Facts of life aren't gross. Hell yeah, let us know so we can sympathize and help out. What you need, boo? Ya feet rubbed? A hot pad? You want some to eat or a glass of wine? Get the kids out of the house so you can have some quiet time? When you love someone, you can't have them hide their pain, emotional or not, and it's the most wonderful thing to help someone you love not hurt so much. Boy, it was a great lengthy learning experience for me over the last 10 years I've been together with my wife. In a relationship for 6 and married for 4. All I knew was only through those veiled ads on TV. For me to understand cramps, mood swings, inconvenience in just about doing anything trivial physically, took me a couple of years. I empathize with her. She does give me a hard time right about a week ahead of the date. I can pick up on it now. She was not aware PMS was a thing and you have mood swings, until I mansplained to her after reading up to understand what she was going through during our early years. Guess what? Now when she gets cranky and I give her the silent saint look, she yells, "Oh, what now? You're gonna call this out as PMS? Huh," and then gets her period. Spends the next few days in writhing pain. Her cramps were unbelievable before marriage. Sometimes she would take a painkiller and pass out. She would spend the next few days sometimes apologizing for picking up a fight or the difficult conversations that did not have to happen. I totally get it, and the only feeling that washes over me is relief that she feels better and not in pain anymore. It's miles better now after our first child. She did not like the idea of switching from sanitary napkins to tampons when I suggested before marriage. Now she switched over a few months ago and said she should have, as this is much more hygienic. I usually buy her the stuff required for getting through her period. She always announces to me the day she gets it, so I know. I do mess up time to time and casually ask her to do something while completely forgetting that she is in pain. She gets irate. "It's okay, my bad." Any loving partner would want to know if you are in pain to be supportive. The least would be to stay away so it's not a burden. In any case, your partner would and should know. The learning process is gradual and we don't think it's repulsive. Being a woman, being a mother is much different from being a dude. We respect that. My girlfriend tells me when it's on its way a week prior because she can feel it. I know that I should put my hand on her belly to add some warmth and soothe away any discomfort. I know that I shouldn't be alarmed by any wetness if it starts abruptly and she wasn't already wearing a tampon. I know to keep tampons close by whenever, wherever. I love her for telling me when her time is coming because I am able to help make it easier for her, and less of a miserable experience. Yes. Doesn't have to be a big thing. Just let me know. I'll go out and buy pads and stuff and work with you so you're not suffering. I'm not going to be offended or grossed out that I have to touch feminine hygiene products. I am your partner and am here to work with you so our lives can be better together than they were separate. Doesn't even have to be awful periods or anything. Even if you had a light period, and can manage, you can just give me a little heads up by asking me to buy something you need. Again, no big deal, it's just my job to be there for you, good times and bad. I hate that women have to ask if a men feel comfortable addressing basic bodily functions. My poor ex could never tell me she was on her period or ask me to get her anything. The one time I bought her a pad because she needed it, she was so apologetic, like I was going to be forever grossed out and think different of her. Now, there were plenty of things I failed at when we were younger, but it's an absolute shame that somebody like my ex grows up in a country where she is mortified to let her potential life partner know she is experiencing a normal and regular bodily function, and that it's pretty serious. I would have just chilled out so could relax. Instead, she was constantly pushing herself to appear like she wasn't in extreme pain. Not to shame you for bringing an honest question to the table, but yes, obviously, tell us. If it affects you physically and emotionally and you have a hard time dealing with it and you start to seem angry at everyone or depressed out of nowhere, it would greatly help us to have an explanation so that we can act accordingly and either give you the space you need or pamper you how you wish. We're all grown-ups here. I'd say that most men just accept periods for what they are, a natural process that just happens, and don't really look at them as something terribly taboo. I'd say that in most cases, someone you're dating would be considered close enough that any barriers of formality on the etiquette of those kinds of discussions are past, and you're likely all fine and good to discuss these sorts of things. I'm sure he would appreciate knowing what's going on so that there aren't any misunderstandings or miscommunications. Weird, but I have Ladytimer on my goddamn phone. My wife and I use it to keep track of things. We used it to avoid pregnancy when we were just dating. Now we use it to get pregnant. Basically, I knew everything about my wife's period, ovulation while we dated. She even told me about delayed periods sometimes, and we had to adjust app accordingly. To answer your question, yes, I would want to know about her period. It also helps me to avoid upsetting her delicate mood in times like that. My partner and I communicate all health issues with each other. I cannot be supportive or helpful if I don't know what is going on. Therefore, yes, I would want to know. My partner and I, we are both around 60 years old, just went through a whole year. She was going through menopause. She is now postmenopausal and her libido is totally gone. Also, she is having bad depression and she suffers from complex PTSD. As for her menopause, she was very open to filling me in and I tried to be helpful in getting her through it. It took nearly 10 years to go through her pre-menopause and her menopause. If your girlfriend, insert literally anything, would you want her to tell you? Yes. Information is never harmful. More knowledge can only be purely neutral or beneficial. I can't think of a single thing I wouldn't want told to me if a partner were willing to share it. Is it mundane and funny like, she just took a surprisingly big shit and just had to tell someone if for nothing else than a reaction? Tell away. Is it as heavy and difficult as, she's not as attracted to me anymore and finds herself wanting to be around someone else more, and maybe this relationship should end? Absolutely tell me. I would 10,000x rather discuss feelings and amicably break up than be cheated on. Is it somewhere in between like, she has really painful period cramps, but she doesn't want to worry me? I'd still rather my partner feel like they can be honest with me no matter what. I'd rather have some sympathy, pain or worry in the short term than just having them go through something that sucks in the background. The first time me and my boyfriend had sex, I started my period. Things were getting hot and heavy, and I thought I was just super turned on. He was down to his undies, but I still had my pants on. They were black, so I couldn't tell that I had bled through to not only the white sheets but onto him as well. He helped me clean it up while reassuring me that it was okay and he wasn't grossed out. He asked if I was in pain and if sex helped the cramping. So we had sex, and then he ordered us pizza afterward. 100% this is a non-issue and any adult, mature partner would want this to be openly discussed. If he reacts with disdain, disgust, or anything other than understanding and care, you need to look elsewhere. This whole stigma of women's health, hygiene and menstruation is so absurd. He might not be able to take the pain away, but he can certainly do many things to make you more comfortable. If most men had a period, I guarantee you we'd be whining about it all the time. Communication is so important, and letting him into something that he probably already knows is just going to make your relationship better. From someone who has been with their partner for almost 12 years. I was raised by my sister, so whenever a woman tells me they're about to start their period, I take it as a personal call to action. My fiancée and my sister both have terrible periods, so I make sure we have all regular supplies necessary, and that our chocolate candy box is stocked. I remember that one commercial that said women need chocolate on their periods. I don't know if it's true, but I'm still running with it. I make sure she's got her heating pad and that she's comfy. I make all the food anyways, so I bring her meals in bed. She milks it, but I don't care. I love taking care of my partner. She's my whole world. We get in some really great cuddle time in where we eat junk food and watch Trolls World Tour all day. I think it makes sense to share that with your partner, for a variety of reasons. If it's making it a rough day, he deserves to know, just like anything else causing you to have a rough day. Keeps him in the loop on your mood, so he can respond accordingly. And when it comes to intimacy, it certainly helps for him to know, for obvious reasons, mostly so he doesn't make an ass of himself or annoy you by trying to make sexy times if you're not interested. Generally, it's good to communicate with your partner about anything impacting your mood. It's also a good way to know if he's a mature guy or not. If he cringes and acts weird or grossed out talking about your period, he's probably got a lot of growing up to do. Absolutely tell him. Here are the benefits. 1. You will be honest about how you're feeling. Honesty is very good and quite underrated. 2. You can set a standard in your relationship for truth-telling and vulnerability, both also good and underrated. 3. It's far better to say it when not in a potential sex situation, as neither of you will have to deal with the worry and shame of rejection for perfectly reasonable reasons. 4. You can help him feel better about the prospect of you feeling sick, down, blue. We all have an instinct to internalize bad things in our close experience, and saying so ahead of time will help him know it's not really about him at all. Here are the negatives. 1. He will know you have a heavy period. If you are in a serious relationship, it's 100% definitely good to know that she's on her period. Personally, I think that it's ridiculous that some guys cannot handle the concept of menstruation. I have no idea how it became popular for it to be considered tough to be weak around menstrual products. Seriously. Sealed, sanitary hygiene products, and guys think that it's tough to refuse to touch them. How does that make any sense? If you can't touch a soiled hygiene product, how can you wipe your own ass? The used tampon is less gross than your own ass. Grow the fuck up. It's not manly to be scared of unused tampons. We really need to get rid of this ridiculous stigma against menstruation. It's utterly insane and illogical. Admittedly, when I was a young man in high school, I did janitorial, which included cleaning out used menstrual products from the women's washrooms. I had a choice of quitting or doing my job. I had also never heard that guys were supposed to be cowards around menstrual products, because that nonsense wasn't popular in my area at the time. Periods are nothing to be ashamed of. It's part of life. Different women experience it very differently. Some have mild ones, and some have horrific ones. A good partner will be able to talk about it without making a fuss. It's part of life.
Thank you for watching. And if you are new, subscribe and hit the bell icon. Don't forget to like and comment. That will help us continue.